And so Lobos will get a chance to try it one more time. That pass for Hummel, by the way, was incomplete, of course, out of the end zone. And so Ross will have one more chance. And they will line it up and go for two. Straight T formation in the backfield. Larry Hill bows under the tee. Handoff to Maurice Stevens.
It was 1982, and on a crisp day in November in a small Texas town in the middle of nowhere, 45 inches was the deciding factor in what could have been the greatest triple overtime collegiate football game ever played. Not between top-ranked Power 5 schools, but between the Lobos of Sul Ross University and the Cardinals of William Jewell College in an NAIA quarterfinal contest played in Alpine, Texas.
The Sunset Limited rolls through this West Texas town almost every day, but it rarely stops here. You see, there just aren't a whole lot of people interested in spending part of their lives here. Here in Alpine, Texas, sits the campus of Sul Ross University, the smallest state-supported college in Texas. Enrollment 1,700.
If you want to get to Alpine, Texas, you better gas up the old bus, because in 1982, no commercial airline flew there. When you got dropped off in Alpine to go to college, heading home for the weekend was just not a luxury most players had. It's situated in the Davis Mountains in West Texas, at the foot of the Rocky Mountain Range. For the second straight year, William Jewell's football title hopes are riding on a trip to Texas. The Cardinals fell out of the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics Division II playoffs last year with a loss to Austin College in Sherman, Texas. The 8-1 Cardinals would get another chance against the Lobos in this opening round playoff game.
I remember the Sunday before. We had just closed out the season on Saturday to finish 10-0. And the word came in on Sunday that, of course, we had made the playoffs. They took the top 8 teams. We were ranked number 3 or 4 or whatever we were, so we knew we were going. But then the word came in that we were going to get to host the game. And I just remember the buzz around the campus and around town.
And we did draw William Jewell the week after we beat Lubbock Christian to go 10-0. Found out we were going to host the game against William Jewell, and not only Sul Ross, but Alpine and Big Bend region. Sul Ross football was top shelf with everybody.
There were so many people backing us. There were so many people backing us, that I would love to recognize. I'd love to recognize the city of Alpine.
I remember it was electric. I was a little bit concerned. I was afraid that we were really ready, but I was afraid that we would peak too early in that ball game.
Sul Ross head coach Joe George is looking for a game that'll pit finesse against power, as the Lobos were relying on high percentage pass plays combined with a balanced running attack. They would face Sul Ross quarterback Larry Hill with 156 completions and 259 attempts for 1,802 yards and 11 touchdowns. Hill was ranked 6th in NAIA passing statistics and ranked 10th in total offense with a passing average of 253 yards a game. Fullback Andrew Hill had 11 touchdowns in 7 games, and tailback Maurice Stevens had 56 catches for 643 yards and 8 touchdowns. Defensively, the two teams are well matched in rushing yard prevention, so there'd be no runaway victory in this one.
Lobos will kick off against the wind here in the first quarter of play. William Jewell has elected to receive, and they will be going with the wind at their back from our right to our left.
It was a huge week, and I remember the whole town, biggest crowd I had ever played in front of. It was just everybody came out. They rolled up the sidewalks in Alpine for that one.
And I remember us going out and warming up at 10:15, 10:30, whatever time they took the first group out. And I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never seen the stands that full, people standing around the fence at every juncture, and just the roar of the Lobos just taking the field to warm up.
And a quarterback back to pass. He's got a man open up at midfield. He's to the 45-yard line, deep into Lobo territory.
And the thing that I remember most about the game, other than the final plays when it ended, was in the pregame where we went out and individually one player from each team would come out and 42 guys suited up. 42 guys suited up, and we met at midfield and shook hands with another player of the opposing team and then took off.
Strong to the short side of the field, and here's the quarterback keeping on the option play. Turns it upfield, a fumble, and we'll see who's got it at the 19-yard line. A scramble for it. The Lobos recover.
I came to Sul Ross as an assistant coach. I was hired by Vernon Fuel and Chet Sample, and after 1 year, Vernon decided to take another position, and they moved me up to be the head coach.
With Joe George, he did not recruit me. I was actually recruited and signed by another coach who resigned and took another job before I actually even reported to play as a freshman. So I ended up playing for Joe George, who I had no knowledge of. And just what a blessing. And his leadership style and his methods on the field and his methods of handling players was just a perfect fit for me. And I would say a lot of our players would say the same thing.
I met with Coach George and Vernon Fuel at the Pig Stand restaurant at W.W. White and Rigsby Road, and they handed me a letter of intent, and I said, well, heck, yeah, sure, I'm going to sign that. So I signed at the Pig Stand, and the rest was history.
Coach George he actually came to Sul Ross as an assistant when I was still playing, and then he moved up into the head coaching position. In my opinion, probably one of, if not the best moves Sul Ross Athletics has ever made.
It all started when Sul Ross made a great decision, and they made a great decision when they hired Coach Joe George.
He used to make me laugh about some of the sayings he used to always come up with. Good gosh of Friday. I still use that with some of my friends today, and they said, where did you get that from? And I said, Coach George.
To attempt the field goal is Steve Hudson. He has a slight angle to his right. The snap is down, the kick is up, and it's good, and we have a 3-0 football game as the Cardinals take the lead.
Coach George was able to bring in a young man by the name of Bob Moran from the West Coast, and we can all tell you some stories about Bob, but Bob was a very innovative offensive mind. He had been at San Francisco State and brought to the table for us a lot of what has now become what they call the West Coast offense, controlled passing game, which kind of played perfectly into Larry's hand as a quarterback, and Maurice Stevens coming out of the backfield. We had good wide receivers, good tight ends, and that all meshed very, very well.
I had a chance to study a bunch of Sul Ross film before I packed up the car and went to Alpine. Really, he had hired me to be the secondary coach. That was the opening, and he asked me about what my offensive background was, and I told him that at San Francisco State we were, just dabbling into the fundamentals of the West Coast offense. And, you can have an idea, but if you can't sell it to our quarterback, we're not going to do it.
The very first offensive play of the '82 season, Bob Moran had come in with some of this West Coast throw it to the backside of the backfield idea. And we held them, and they had a short punt. We got a short field. And we throw a quick pass to the halfback out of the backfield on the very first play of the season. And I hit a little short throw to Maurice Stevens in the flats on the right, and he runs all the way for a touchdown. Doesn't sound like a real a spectacular play, but you could just see the look on the Tarleton's players' faces. What has just happened? We've never seen that concept before.
But I just remember that Saul Ross, the thing that stuck out is when you went out there, it was like, okay, it's going to be different, because they did such a great job of their play action pass. And as far as the run game and selling the run and then the play action and then the quick passing game. I thought that Larry did an unbelievable job watching the film before you prepared to play them, that you knew that you were going to have your hands full because of the job that he was able to do in reading defenses.
And some of the teams that we played, some of the coaches said, you can't stop them. You can't stop them. One reason they couldn't stop them is because we were really ahead of our time.
Third down and about 3.5 to go for the Lobos out at the 47-yard line. Larry Hill straight back to pass. He has plenty of time, and now he's being pursued. Throws the football downfield. He's got Burnett Williams open at the 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Lobos. Snap is down. The kick is blocked. The kick is blocked, and our score remains 6-3, and we'll be back after this 60-second timeout.
Bob brought in a lot of new concepts and new ideas that he had experienced and he had coached when he was coaching on the West Coast. And it just so happened that we had a team that was smart enough. We had the receivers, we had the quarterback that could execute anything. I mean, I have perfect confidence in our ability to execute. We just needed some different ways to approach it.
He was very intelligent football-wise, and I think maybe after practice or dinner he liked to frequent the drinking establishments because he would show up the next day with napkins, bar napkins with plays on them, pull them out of his pocket and say, look, we're going to do this when you line up here. And even he would stay after practice while we were trying to work on our timing and let's try this one, and it just clicked.
Bob was just very, very thoughtful into his game planning, and of course he would eat, sleep, and drink football, and he was always with his pad drawing up this and that and everything, and he had nothing else that he wanted to devote his time to. And I remember when he left Alpine, left Saul Ross, he had a vehicle that he had driven for 4 years, pretty nice car. He hadn't had the oil changed in 4 years in that thing, and they told me when they tried to drain the oil out, it was almost like tar coming out. Bob said he didn't have time to do that. He was thinking of planning on what he was going to be doing the next ball game. So yeah, he added a lot to our team, and to Joe George's credit, he turned him loose. Again, it's a split backfield, and here's a quarterback. He throws down the middle. He's got a man open, complete into the end zone. Touchdown, Cardinals. Andre Nelson it was who took that pass, a 33-yard scoring pass from quarterback Kelly Groom. Now the Lobos line up in a straight T offense. Handoff to Andrew Hill, standing up for the touchdown. Lobos line it up and go for two. Slot formation to the near side. One running back behind quarterback Larry Hill. Here's Hill straight back to pass. He's got his man Andrew Hill, and he won't get in. And so our score remains 12-10 in favor of the Lobos.
I remember facing William Jewell and those players, and I remember vividly thinking, these are some of the biggest, strongest players that I played against so far in my college career. There was no doubt, there was no question in my mind. They were a force to reckon with. There was no question in my mind, and we knew we had to be at our best, on our best level. And they might have been a little bit deeper overall. I don't know what it was, but they had some ball players that, like I said, that certainly spent some time in the league, and you could see it and you could feel it as we, competed against them that day.
And Muller puts his toe into the football, gives it a high ride, and that wind holds it way up there And it's fumble. Let's see who's got it at the 17-yard line. There's a fight for it. The Lobos have the football. Marcel Clay, the lad who came up with that football.
Ron Mays was our defensive coordinator. Ron had been in the high school ranks for quite a while in East Texas and came out to Sul Ross, joined Coach George as the defensive coordinator, coached the linebackers. And Joe Sanchez, who was originally from the Valley area, coached the offensive line for us. And Joe, I think one of the main things that he brought to the table, he recruited the Valley for us. And a lot of the players that came out of the Valley were very, very instrumental to our success in that long run.
It was awesome to be able to get these guys. Now, that was the area. Of course, I grew up there. I had some good help of special coaches in the Valley, like Coach Alex Leal, Eliseo Villarreal, Richard Flores. I knew that I would go to them and they would direct me to kids that they felt would make it down up here in Sul Ross, And so being able to get that, get them to come over there and then stay there, because that's a long ways from the Valley. You're talking 500 miles, and then the way they gelled together there. I used to remember when I bring a recruit, I'd make sure that they would be hanging out with the rest of the Valley guys, and to make sure that they knew how to show them about and tell them things that would help keep them there.
I just want to say that at Sul Ross, those 4 years, that I played football there, I think were the best years of my life. I think that shaped me into the individual that I am, made me the coach that I am, and the career that I've had. The other thing that I can say about the game of football, if I would have not played that game, I would have never gotten an education. So that's big for me. Having the opportunity to play college football was the only reason I went to college. I would have never gone to college. Came out of there with a master's degree and was able to, work myself up the ranks and had a pretty good career. So I owe everything to the game of football, to Sul Ross State University, to Joe Sanchez that came and recruited me, the offensive line coach, Joe George. It's just, it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
When I initially went to Sul Ross, I went as a young boy, as a young man, 18 years old, out of high school. Somewhere in the phase in going to Sul Ross, there's a transition that goes into a person and change and maturity level. And I think that took place, and I think it took place in a lot of the team players. And that was, I think, the confidence that we had as a team amongst each other.
And it was good to see kids that never would have had a chance to play anywhere get together like that and make something big like this.
And we're out of time here in the first quarter of play. That is the end of the first quarter with our score, Sul Ross 12, Williams Jewell 10. We'll be back after this timeout. Midway through the second quarter of play, Sul Ross clinging on to a 12-10 lead. And the handoff is to the fullback, and he'll win the race to the end zone. Touchdown, Cardinals.
3-yard touchdown run by number 35.
On the carry, Steve Hodges, he started to cut back upfield. Had he done that, he would have been in trouble. And the kick is no good, off to the right, and our score remains 16 for Williams Jewell, 12 for Sul Ross.
Why was the success of the 1982 team so impactful? Well, you have to rewind a bit. In 1965, Coach David Slaughter's Lobos finished the regular season campaign with a perfect 10-0 and were the Lone Star Conference champions. This was not the springboard to years of Lobo success on the gridiron, as the Lobos amassed a 63-83-1 record for the next 16 seasons.
Well, my first year there, the fall of '79, we went 4-6, which doesn't seem like a real significant record, but they had been 1-9 the previous year, so that represented a step forward. But in 1980, I think we thought we were going to be quite a bit better. But yet after 6 games, we were 2-4. out of the playoff hunt or the conference championship hunt. But of those 4 losses, 3 of them were by 1 point.
Very, very close games, could have gone either way. And then I think the turning point of the program came the last 3 games of the 1980 season. We knocked off Austin College. It was very highly ranked, and then we won our last 2 games after that.
I think we finally started gelling and getting things together that helped us be more successful in the 81 and 82 years.
And then we went into the 1981 season. A lot of players coming back, very high hopes.
Well, 81 season was the best team I'd ever been on to that point, high school or college. Hadn't really been blessed to play a team that won that regular and that often.
We were, Austin College was ranked 2nd in the nation. They had just come off of a very good year. We were ranked 4th in the nation in 1981.
They were our rival. They were our rival. And I tell you something, Austin College, those Austin College games is where we really came together as a team.
Because the Sul Ross game was the game. I mean, that was, if we didn't beat Sul Ross, we weren't going to beat anybody. It always came down to the end. I mean, it was be up, way up, and we could make a comeback, and we could be up, and it was just never over until the last possession.
Honestly, we should have won every game in 81. I blame myself for it a little bit. You know, we've got a chance when we're 8-0 and playing up in Sherman, and they're 7-1, and we've got the ball last, and we're down by 3, and it's 4th and 6 on about the 40-yard line going in. And I don't know why this sticks out, but I can remember it. The play call comes in, and it's without getting too technical, it's a down and in by the solo receiver, and then we got a back slipping out of the backfield into the flats and up the sideline. We had not run that play all year. We just put it in that week. And our coaches must have seen something to know that that was the right call for the right time.
They didn't make a whole lot of adjustments on defense. They gave you the same scheme just over and over and over again. And they kept bringing their strong safety down on the line of scrimmage and rushing the strong safety. It left the flat wide open.
And I blame myself. I didn't believe it. I was worried he's going to be covered. They're getting a lot of pressure on me. I won't be able to go to a second option. And I remember as the play unfolds, I came off the first option, which is the halfback up the sideline, and I hit the dig route. I hit the down and in, and I actually completed, and we make a first down to keep the drive going. If I throw the halfback rail, there's no one in the same zip code as him. He'll catch it, he'll backpedal in the end zone, we'll win the championship. And it still haunts me. 2 plays later, we come back to it. I throw it to him this time, but they recover quickly and they tackle him. And we try a field goal on the last play of the game, and we miss it, and we lose.
We attempted field goals that day. And I don't remember us making any field goals, but if we would have made one, we would have won the game. It was unfortunate. We had a good field goal kicker, in my opinion, that he was a quality kicker. But every time that it came time to kick, we had to kick into the wind. And we'd kick into the wind, and the ball would be going up, and all of a sudden it'd get ready to cross the crossbar, and it'd just stall out and fall to the ground.
The one thing I do recall is if we had to lose to anyone, I was glad we lost to the national champions ultimately. And there was something I was proud of that if we lost a game, it was to the best team out there.
Lobos were able to scratch together a 9-1 season and missed the NAIA playoffs by 1 game. That season, the team was able to outscore its opponents 316 to 104, and a whole new attitude was born in the the Sul Ross Fieldhouse. The Lobos were able to parlay their 1981 success on the field into a never-before off-season excitement.
The spring of '82, I think we're elated. You know, we're 9-1, we're co-champs. We got a lot of confidence going in, but some of us, myself included, that loss gnaws at you. And what could have been, and then now what needs to be. And I think there was a steely determination amongst our team that spring and that summer. This is not going to happen again. We're going to find a way to win every game.
Well, I felt real confident in the guys that we had coming back. We had a number of guys who spent the summer in Sul Ross. And as a football coach, you want your players to be together. You want their best friends to be other team members, and they were doing it.
Seemed like it gave everybody a whole lot better perspective of where we could be and what we were, when you see what they do and how they advanced and how they did in the playoffs, you're thinking, hey, we're right there. A couple of things different. We're going to be the team there.
I think the mood in the certainly the spring of '82 and going into the summer of '82, a lot of players certainly made a commitment to get ready. I mean, we hit the weight room hard, worked out. A lot of the players stayed in the summer. It was, I think the atmosphere, we knew we were going to be a pretty good football team again. We got close in '81. We wanted to get back there in '82. But it was going to take a pretty good team effort because we're going to have to replace a lot of those players that left in '81.
The next season, I said, with most of the core coming back, that we should have a very good chance of producing a very good team.
You know, it felt a lot to me, and just thinking back, man, we knew we were good from that last season in '81, and I just felt like even going through spring, I don't think we had as many complaints, going up a mountain. It was one of those things where we felt like, we're going to get this done, man, and so let's not leave it on the table, and let's make sure we do what we need to do. So it just felt like we had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, and we wanted to prove that we could get there.
Yeah, looking back on it, I couldn't believe that we had that many good players in Alpine, Texas at the same time. That's the feeling I get looking back on it after looking at their seasons 10, 20 years, 30, 40 years ago, 40 years from then. It's just hard for me to believe that we were able to amass that many quality players at Sul Ross compared to what you see now in the rest of the conference. It's just a miracle.
Charlie Nelson will hold, and Chris Zavala will snap the football back. Snap is down, the kick is up, it looks okay. That is the end of the first half with our score, William Jewell 16, Sul Ross 15. Once again, we'd like to welcome our listeners this afternoon listening on radio station KFST in Fort Stockton, radio station KIUN in Pecos, and radio station KVLF in Alpine, all bringing you this afternoon's NAIA quarterfinal football game from Jackson Field in Alpine. Steve Hummel is on the far side, fading to the near side. Larry Hill throws a pass, caught, touchdown Lobos. And the Lobos are going to line it up and go for two. You've got Andrew Hill, the two-point conversion is good. And our score now goes to 23 for Sul Ross, 16 for William Jewell. We'll be back after this 60-second timeout.
Let's put this into perspective. The Sul Ross Lobos are leading William Jewell in the third quarter in the NAIA quarterfinal playoff game, and a national championship is in their sights. How does a program that's been struggling for years find itself in this position? What changed? When did it change? And was there a moment that can be pinpointed that turned everything around?
Well, my first year there, the fall of '79, we went 4-6, which doesn't seem like a real significant record, but, they had been 1-9 the previous year, so that represented a step forward. But in 1980, I think we thought we were going to be quite a bit better. But yet, after 6 games, we were 2-4, out of the playoff hunt or the conference championship hunt. But of those 4 losses, 3 of them were by 1 point. Could have easily been 5-1, but we weren't. We were 2-4. And, you know, something needed to happen. We didn't, I don't know if we didn't know how to close out games or didn't know how to win or whatever the cliche is you want to use, but Austin College was ranked number 2 in the nation and was on their way to what they thought would be their second straight conference championship. And they came to our place, and we had a big game.
The Lobos upset the unbeaten and number 2 ranked Kangaroos. Sophomore quarterback Larry Hill threw for 331 yards and earned NAIA Player of the Week honor.
I remember the game because it was one of my better games statistically, and we won the game. And you could almost sense, it was at our place, when we left the field, they were shocked. We were elated. But I just gained a sense in the locker room after the game, we can beat anybody. I'm not sure why we've lost these close games, but we can beat anybody. And we closed with 3 more wins. The 10th game of the year, we won on the last play of the game. And so we're 6-4, which is better than they had been and Sul Ross had been in a long time. And we'd won 4 straight, and we had a lot of really good players coming back in '81. And I thought that was the spark that would culminate in '82, an undefeated season, and launch us into a great '81 year.
I think we went 6-4 that season and lost like 3 games by 1 point, you know, and so we were just getting there, and our confidence was getting there. The team was gelling, was getting unified, you know, and I felt like they expected to win now, the 81, and then especially the '82 team. They came in there expecting to win.
Well, I think we started playing good. You know, we're a good football team. We started learning how to win. We started building that bond. The players really bought into one another and bought into what the coaches wanted them to do. And it was a beautiful thing to see, because as a coach, you could see it coming.
We all had a responsibility. Now, not just to ourselves, but to our teammates. And that is what I felt, and that is what I can look back and remember the most. I did not want to let anyone down. The other guys didn't want to let anyone down. Because why? Because I believe we became closer. We became as one. I think that year was projected us into '82.
The matchups between the Lobos and Roos from then on gained gravity as the 2 teams had each other in their sights, because the road to the conference championship would go through Alpine or Sherman, Texas. In their second meeting, a Lobo victory would cement the championship and set up a run at a national championship. But it wasn't meant to be, as a last-minute touchdown snapped the unbeaten Lobos' winning streak. The loss evened the 2 teams' records, but it staked Austin College's claim for the 1981 playoff bid over the Lobos. Austin College would go on to run the table and win the NAIA National Championship.
And understood that it was only one team that cost us from going to the playoffs, and that was Austin College.
But, you know, we didn't do it. And, you know, I look back at that, and I see that was disappointing to me, that when I get the film and I look at it, and it's just plain as day, we just let them get away with it. We shouldn't have.
1982 would pit the Lobos and Roos against each other again, and the first meeting would set the tone for the season. Coming off the loss in '81 that would keep Sul Ross out of the playoffs, the Lobos knew that this trip to Sherman would have to end differently if they wanted to realize their goals of making the NAIA playoffs and a hunt for the national title.
I remember how long of a bus ride it always was to Sherman, first of all, as all of us do. And we kind of look back now, and we would actually load up the bus on Thursday night and drive all night long and get there mid-morning on Friday morning.
Well, I remember the pregame as we're all gathered around and tense, because we're playing. We know for a national championship. And we had a freshman, Coach George asked if anybody had anything to say, and Jimmy Aldridge, a freshman that none of us really knew at the time, stood up and said, I've got one thing. You guys came up here last year and you got your ass kicked.
And I think at that moment, I don't even remember what he said after that, because then at that point we're like, oh, we're looking around at each other, and who is this guy? What's he talking about? So Jimmy did his part to pump us up, and we went out there and did what we had to do. And I just, I liked that game. And I don't remember all of it, but I do remember we had a play, that particular deal, for their defense. And I remember I would loop around Watson. Watson would block down, and I'd come around on the linebacker. And Larry'd pitch the ball out to Mo. And if Mo had a little room, he was gone.
You fast forward to game 9. And we're 8-0, and Austin College is 7-1. We're in the identical situation that we were the year before. And this time we're the one with the lead, a one-possession game, and there's just a minute or two left, and Austin College actually has the ball, and they've got several first downs put together, and they're on our 25-yard line with about 40 seconds to go. And I remember being on the sideline. I'm really powerless to do anything. I'm an offensive player. Defense has got to do something. And I just remember thinking, somebody's got to make a play. So somebody's got to make a play. If we're ever going to do this, and then here it is, somebody's got to make a play. And Carl Lee made a play.
Austin College is now driving, and they're getting down close to our goal line. And I said, we can't lose this. I said, if it comes my way, I'm gonna make sure I have to stop this play. Or if it goes away, I gotta do something. Well, they run a pass play, and I'm not able to quite get to the quarterback in time. So Coach Mays used to always say, you can't get there, put your hands up. So quarterback drops, can't get there, put my hands up, tip the ball. Luckily, Frank Fryer's there to intercept the ball. Game's over.
He had stopped me on the sideline 2 series before. He says, if you guys will score one more time, we're going to win. We went down and scored, and then before the defense took the field for the last series, he kind of looked at me and nodded as though, okay, we're going to do that. And we needed a play, and I remember they trying to throw a little slant pattern to the wide side of the field, and Carl Lee elevated. He jumped as high as he possibly could. I think it's about this high. And he got his big hand up and batted that thing in the air, and Frank Fryer picked it off and ran it about 40, 50 yards the other way, and we took a knee, kneeled the ball, and that was a celebration. That was the most exciting football game I had ever been in that stage of my life. And to see just the euphoria amongst the players, the coaches, the community, the college, they just hadn't had anything like that. Most of us hadn't been involved in it. And just remember that, and the aftermath in the locker room. There's an electricity that you just don't often get to be a part of, and that was just so magical, and it just sticks out.
A lot of things go into an undefeated season, and maybe you have to have a little bit of luck. Maybe you have to have a few things go right, and that was certainly one of them. You look at polls, and it's when you win, when you lose. And had we not beat them in that 9th game of the year, the tables could have actually turned and been flip-flopped a little bit, and they may have jumped ahead of us in the rankings. And back then there were only 8 teams that went into the playoff system, with so many conferences in the nation. It was very, very difficult back then for 2 teams out of the same conference to make it.
If you hit a team that wants it more, and I think Saul Ross wanted it more, to be honest with you, than we did. I mean, we had a great team just like y'all did, but it came down to kind of just the want to, and y'all had it.
We'll take care of it once we get out on the field, and once we got out there, and we just kept pounding and pounding. Yes, it was a close game. But really, overall, I think we just wore them down to where they couldn't do anything.
The Lobos would extend their third quarter lead to 30-16 after another Larry Hill to Andrew Hill connection. The fourth quarter would begin with the 30-23 score, but soon would be tied at 30 following a William Jewell fourth down stop and subsequent 12-play scoring drive. William Jewell recovered a fumble on the ensuing kickoff, and a chip shot field goal would end this one. But nose tackle David Wrench had a difference of opinion.
Snap is down, the kick is up, and it's blocked by the Lobos. That was David Wrench.
With unsuccessful drives by both teams following, this game was headed into overtime.
30 apiece. Oh my goodness. Regardless of how it winds up, nobody here can say they didn't get their money's worth of football. If at the end of the fourth quarter the teams have identical scores, the tie will be resolved in the following manner, and each team shall put the ball in play from its opponent's 20-yard line, first down and 10 yards to go. Teams shall alternate possessions until the tie is broken following an equal number of possessions. So this game will not go down as a tie. There will be a winner. And whoever wins this football game, that will go down as a win with that score in their record book. And that team will also be in the playoffs in 2 weeks, whoever wins this thing.
And again, because I don't remember ever discussing what happens if it ended in a tie. We certainly didn't practice it. I don't remember coaches talking about it. So when they end in a tie, they say, well, we're going to play some more. And it ends up, what we know as overtime today, is how we played it in 1982.
You know, I guess I didn't pay enough attention to the rules. And I knew that I wasn't probably going to be on the field no matter what happened, but I thought, you know, obviously these guys know what they're doing. I just hope we can pull it off.
You know, I didn't know what the format was overall or anything like that. But I think about it, man, even still, and I smile because, again, it was just, it was one of those games where if you're a football fan, I don't care what level, if you're a football fan, this is one of those games that you wish you could have actually seen.
I remember Coach, before he sent us out there, I mean, I had no background in this. And since I had blown the coin toss before the game, I wanted to be sure. I remember going back to him twice. We want to be on defense first, yes? Yeah, and I go about to the hash and then I run back. Defense first. And yes, defense first. So we do. We win the toss and we go on defense first. And they put a drive together and they go down and score and they kick. And we're down 7. And, you know, again, we're in uncharted waters here, but we get the ball offensively. And we go down and score. And there was brief talk about, do we kick or go for 2? Well, we kicked, and there was a lot of pressure on the kick. Charles Muller was our kicker. And I remember on the sideline, it suddenly hit me, if he doesn't make this, we're done.
A mighty big extra point, the biggest extra point of his career. Snap is down, the kick is up, and it is good. And we will have another overtime period.
So now we kind of regroup and, okay, what happens now? Okay, well, now we get the ball first. We alternate possessions, and we get a great drive together. In 2 plays, we're down on the 4-yard line. And a kind of somewhat lost in history play comes up. We throw a short flat pass to Maurice Stevens in the flat, a play that we'd run 1,000 times. And the ball is slightly off target. He's covered pretty well. It's incomplete. Not a problem. Going to be second and goal from the 4. But they called offensive pass interference on one of our receivers in the end zone. They said that he was blocking a defensive back. And you look at it on the film years later, he's not. Not at least when the ball's in the air. But they penalize us 15 yards. So now it's second and goal from the 19 instead of the 4. On the next play, we drop back and I get sacked. And there's a personal foul on the play, and they move us back 15 more. We hit a pass. Anyway, the long of it is we end up trying a 52-yard field goal that we miss. And Now William Jewell, all they have to do is score in any fashion and win. They run the ball off tackle 2 times, and on 3rd down, send their field goal kicker out. Turns out he was 15 for 16 on the year on field goals, perfect on extra points. So, you know, there's a little bit of a gloom and doom in the stadium.
We'll let the crowd tell you what happened. Scott Hudson to attempt, 33 yards out.
Well, what happens is S.B. Howard, our senior defensive tackle, he breaks through the line, somehow gets just enough of the ball with his hand and deflects it off course, and the kick's no good. We're going to 3rd overtime. And to this day, and I've been in a lot of arenas with my career, coaching career, I've never heard an explosion in the crowd like that.
That moment, that was extremely tense. To get to that ball, the urgency.
Just waiting for that opportunity to get myself back in there now and say, now let's go ahead and finish this and get it over with.
I'm on the sideline and coach, right by coach, and it's their ball now. We're going back to 3rd overtime. They'll get the ball first, and he looks at me and he says, if they score and we score, we're going for 2, and here's what we're going to run. Already had the play. We had rehearsed it on Friday afternoon. And I remember thinking very confidently, if it comes to that, we got them.
Kelly Groom's 20-yard touchdown pass to tight end Scott Martin, Steve Hudson's conversion pushed Jewell ahead 44-37 in the 3rd overtime.
And as their extra point team runs on the field, he looks at me and he just nods. You know, what we just said, we're doing that. So we take the field, put together a little drive. I don't know how many plays, but we scored.
Running play up the middle, Andrew Hill, he gets in for a touchdown.
I remember about the playoff game was how tired we were getting. And it wasn't that William Jewell wasn't getting tired as well, but I think at the end of the day, we made the right decision. Coach George did go for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and he said it because he felt like he couldn't go all that many times against William and Jewell, you know.
Coach Joe George said he had 3 good reasons for going for the 2-point conversion instead of taking the kick and forcing another overtime. George said he figured momentum was on the Lobos' side and that Jewell's offense was beginning to take its toll on his defense, and that he had a gut feeling it was time to go for 2.
I agree that it was the right call. I mean, we've been playing a long time, and I felt like I had a gut feeling it was time to go for it.
And I remember being confident when we leave the huddle because we'd rehearsed it. We were in a straight T formation, 2 tight ends, kind of a run set, and it was a check with me at the line of scrimmage. We had a flood pass to the right or a flood pass to the left. We could run either one. If they put more guys to the right, we run it, you audible, we run to the left. If they're top heavy to the left, we go to the right. And I remember coming to the line and they were balanced to the right, and I'm about to call it to the left, and I looked and they're balanced to the left. So there's no real clear-cut advantage. And the rule was, in our audible system, if there's no advantage, then run it to the right. So we run it to the right. Everybody's covered, getting a little pressure. I'm about to go down. Well, you can't take a sack. So I remember forcing the ball in the end zone into a crowded coverage, and the ball's knocked down and the game's over. And they're celebrating and we're somber. And I remember looking up and there's a flag on the play.
Nope, it's against William Jewell. Illegal participation. They had too many men on the field, apparently. And so Lobos will get a chance to try it one more time.
They've got 12 men on the field. That's why the coverage was balanced to the right and balanced to the left. They had 6 and 6. So they moved the ball 1.5 yards closer. I mean, this wild swing of emotions, you can just feel it in the stadium.
Straight T formation in the backfield. Larry Hill bows under the tee. Handoff to Maurice Stevens. He did not get in. William Jewell has won the football game.
Stop just short of the goal line.
We call a little hand sweep play that we've been pretty good at all year, and we cut up in there, and there's a lot of technical things that went on, but there's a collision about a half yard from the goal line, and we're short, and it's close, but we're short, and there just suddenly became an eerie silence because 98% of the crowd was ours. I mean, they're a long way from Liberty, Missouri. They didn't bring many people. And it's just an eerie silence. And I just remember thinking, it's over and my career's over.
We'd been out there a long time, and I think it was time to get it over with. And I think the play that we called 9 times out of 10 would have been successful. Just a couple of things probably happened on that play that, you look back and wish didn't happen. But, I think it was time to get her done and go on. And of course, we look back 40 years later and wish, had we been successful on that play, possibility of winning a national championship was really good from what I remember of the other teams and what people had said afterwards. But no, I think we could have punched it in there. We'd have been all right. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Be honest with you, because that little piece, for some reason, was spliced onto the tape. I've never seen that last play.
Whatever Coach George wanted to do, I was happy with it. If we got it, would have been heroes. If we didn't, somebody had to make a choice. And that was a gutsy call on his part. And 40 years later, I still defend him on making that call.
Thought we had it. In fact, from the angle that I was looking at, it was double. We had the down blocks and everything. We had the kick out, and there was a gap. And I thought, I already had my hands up, thinking scoring. I don't know where a linebacker just comes out of there and just hits Maurice, and I just couldn't believe we didn't get in.
Yeah, certainly a lost feeling when we lost, and a devastating feeling knowing that it was the final time you would do it.
Oh, it was heartbreaking. It was really disappointing. It was heartbreaking because you saw, said, a huge investment for several years, and it was disappointing.
And it was one of those evenly matched contests that could have just gone either way. And we just came out on the short end of it. But you look at it, anything could have happened. You get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And it was just one of those games that we came up short in.
I kept thinking about it when I was driving a tractor on the farm. I kept thinking about that play for about 4 or 5 months. I never forgot it. And to this day, I never forgot it.
As an athlete, and I don't care what level, when you lose and when you've given everything that you can and you've left it on the field, man, it hurts, and that was one of those days that hurt, more and longer than anything. But even thinking about that to this day, Larry, all these years later, that still hurts. That loss hurts, man, now even.
Didn't turn out like we had hoped. I felt like if we could have gotten past William Jewell, we would have had an opportunity to go on and win the national championship like Austin College had out of our conference the year before. But 2 great teams going at it, slugfest game, electric atmosphere, beautiful fall afternoon in Alpine, and that's a day I'll never forget.
We played our hearts out. It was a great game, but I have regrets about that game too. And that we went into a triple overtime, and I wish I'd have had that last play of that ball game. I wish I'd have had it over again, because I think I got a better play in the ball game than what we did.
So, which experience brings men closer together? Is it the shared victory or destroying defeat? Could one argue that this haunting memory of what-ifs and so close actually keeps these men's thoughts on each other? Had the Lobos gone on to win the game and then brought home a national championship, would these forever teammates hold each other in the same regard? And would they think of each other as often as they do today? They all would joke that we'd still think of each other but have a ring too. But deep down, after hearing them all talk, I'm not so sure that any of them would change a thing about the way the last 40 years have been since that triple overtime game in a small Texas town in 1982.
I was just so, so glad to be a part of that team in those years and those eras. And that was the thing for me, man. I felt like it, Alpine and Sul Ross State University gave me the opportunity to shine, and gave me the opportunity to be a part of something that was special. And it was that. It was special. And as I said earlier, I wouldn't change it, wouldn't trade it for the world.
I think about the people I met and the coaches I met and the times I had and the games we won, even the games we lost. We made a lifetime of friends. And to this day, I still see a bunch of good friends.
We weren't around for the 1965 team to see how they did and where they did it. But I think as far as games go down in Alpine, Texas, that game has got to stand out with any old-timer that remembers any kind of Sul Ross football games. That was one of the top games he's ever laid his eyes on.
We became one, and in becoming one, it was greater than a game. It was greater than a football team. It was young men that learned how to care and love each other.
To look back at that, used to be the old reel film, to look at it on video now and to listen to it on tape. And I remember listening to it on tape 25, 30 years later, and Ray Hendricks calling the game and going down to the wire on the game. And I think he was as into it as the coaches and the players and the fans were, and just a incredibly memorable afternoon.
And always, even if I don't see them, I care about them, think about them really daily, and hope they're doing well. And any chance I get to interact with them, it's always a good experience. But just a great group of guys, winners.
Like when we had that reunion, it was good to see everybody. It was just a great experience. Sul Ross has been good to all of us, and it was just something to never forget.
But overall, I think it was just that we came together as one. No one was saying the offense was better, the defense was better. It was no Sul Ross was better.
Playing the game, playing with a great group of guys, that was a huge part of that experience. But it was just going to college and going to school, and then coming out of it with a degree. And then I know myself, going into teaching and coaching. It's kind of weird because I was an individual, Larry, that I did not like school. So here I am, an individual that did not like school, and I've never left school.
And all the hard work, determination that everybody put in to get to what we did, it didn't come easy. And I'm just so proud to have been part of this team and be part of this team. And I just can't say enough. It's like a dream that came true, and we weren't even dreaming about it.
But when I reflect on it, if I had to play my last down in any ball game, that was the game I wanted to finish on. I really felt like we left it on the field in that game.
Certainly a lost feeling when we lost, and a devastating feeling knowing that it was the final time you would do it.
A heartbreaker when you were successful 10 games, and then to have that one go to triple overtime and you know you can do it, and it didn't happen. So it was a tough one.
Bob Richardson, president of St. Ross, was not a great football or a great athletic fan at all. And he really didn't want to host that playoff game. But when he left St. Ross, his last day in office, he called me and asked if I could go over to his office. I went over there and he said, Sample, I want to tell you something. He said, I was watching college all-star game the other night. He said, this player from William Jewell was in the game. And he said, I brought back a lot of memories. And he said, I want to tell you, in my presidency here, there's been 3 great things that happened. And he said, one of them was that damn football game that you got out here. He said, that's one of the best things that ever happened to St. Ross. And I wasn't for it, but he said it was a great success for us, and brought in all kinds of publicity that little old St. Ross would have never gotten.
What really didn't sink in at the time, that sinks in now after, you've had years, to reflect on this, are the relationships that were built, the bonds that were made, the lifeline friends that resulted from that experience, the small town environment that was Alpine, but it was a very inclusive community in our student body, with very, very diversified, and there was an atmosphere. Yeah, we are different in certain ways. Our backgrounds completely different from different parts of the state, or in my case, different parts of the country, different cultures. But there was an atmosphere of acceptance and mutual respect that that bonded lifetime friendships and developed us professionally.
But real regrets, I mean, every player has regrets about plays they didn't make. But I don't know that I would change a thing. I got to be teammates with Tommy Holmes. I got to be, a teammate of Marcel Clay. I got to play with Rene Cortines. I got Joel Bellinger. I mean, I go on Maury Stevens. I can go on and on. I got to room with Ray Despain. I got to play for Joe George. Nobody really deserves that, but I got it, and I'll take that with me to the grave.
They were brothers. They were there for one another, and there's not anything that a coach could ask for as far as attitude, intelligence, and want to, because we did it, and we all did our part to the best of our abilities.
But oh, what a successful year for St. Ross football. First conference championship and undefeated season since 1965. And of course, what a way to wrap the thing up. Again, William Jewell wins it 44-43. They stopped Maurice Stevens about a foot shy of the goal line on the east end zone of Jackson Field. It's been a great season for both football teams. And what an exciting afternoon this has been. Again, it took 3 overtimes. The Lobos gambled and went for 2. And they did not quite get in on the 2-point conversion. And William Jewell wins it 44-43 in the 3rd overtime. Well, that'll do it from Jackson Field. We'd like to thank our listeners in Fort Stockton and Pecos and throughout Alpine and the Big Bend area. And we'd like to thank you for your support throughout the year. We return you now to the studio.